You see damage on back to the back like apartments be.
I ain't never seen them like that.
Mm-hmm. They were nice out there, Joan Birds out there. Um,
Yeah.
and we went over there, and I rode over to, we rode over Faith, and we rode over to her daughter's house out there. She stayed with her daughter now.
I know you got it made. You ain't got to drive nowhere. You could just ride. Why everybody else suffer? Why why everybody else suffer? You be chilling.
Yeah, it felt good that time.
I know it did.
I'm always driving.
Oh, you sure do. You know how to get the hell on, baby.
You know, there's 4 wheels out there now. I want to be sitting here.
Well, let me do that live right quick, Jen.
Uh,
Let me do a live right quick.
you can do it.
A live right quick.
Oh, okay.
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 Hey, y'all. This your girl. You already know. Y'all, I apologize. I didn't even know I had no hit the live button, but I'm bad though. I was talking to a customer. But look, y'all. Let's get in this Kohberger case, okay? You know it's a gag order on the case, so I haven't been putting nothing on here. But what I do want to do is share something with y'all. And y'all, please, I love my subscribers because they have me laughing. Y'all, I apologize when I go to sleep and stuff. This sun, they be having me out there in the sun. Okay, y'all. Hold on. Let me shut my office door. Hold on. Okay, like I said, it's a gag order on Bryan Kohberger case, so y'all not gonna really hear what's going on, okay? But here, let's check this out.
Headlines here, and in just a few hours, a judge will hear arguments on whether to lift that gag order that prevents just about everyone involved in the case against Bryan Kohberger from speaking publicly. He is the man who is accused of fatally stabbing 4 University of Idaho students back late last year. Joshua Ritter is a criminal defense attorney and former LA district attorney and joins us now live to talk more about all of this. As always, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first off, I want to kind of go back to basics as I normally do here. And can you break down for me what a gag order even is?
Sure. It's where the judge essentially limits what the parties can say outside of court. It's an order to say that nothing, courts are open to the public, but the judge is saying that there are certain things that you know about evidentiary hearings, about discovery that's been turned over, about your thoughts on the case, your arguments perhaps. And the judge has essentially said in a very broad order in this case that nothing that hasn't already been released to the public can be commented on by the parties, and that the parties can't even add their own opinions to those things. So it's a really restrictive order in this case, but usually gag orders just broadly deal with what comments can be made.
Y'all, I'm going to stop it right here. Y'all notice, I know people is trying to take freedom of speech from people. People can say what they want to say. It's a declaration of independence. You know what I mean? That's what I don't understand. People can say what they want to say about a case. Y'all taking rights from people.
The public outside of court concerning an ongoing trial.
Oh, here we go, y'all. Commercial. Taking the gag order out is I mean, guys, we don't want to know what's going on.
Explain to me how today's hearing is going to work. I don't know how much information has been released about it, but what do we expect to happen here?
Well, if you're a law junkie, it could be a very interesting argument because you're going to see a battle between the First and Sixth Amendments of the Constitution. Essentially, what the arguments are going to be is the First Amendment applies to the rights of the parties, the rights of the family, is the right of the defendant, in this case Kohberger, to have a fair and impartial jury. And what the judge is concerned with and has been concerned with up until now is that will too much media attention. This case is getting a lot of media attention, especially for Idaho, especially for that small community, but just broadly nationwide, it's getting a lot of attention. And the judge is saying that too much media attention on this is going to taint any jury pool, that we won't be able to bring in enough jurors who don't have preconceived opinions about this case, and that will somehow affect the defendant's ability to put on a defense. And so the judge is going to have to do a balancing here today, and we'll hear arguments from both sides, and it should be interesting to see how the judge concludes.
Yeah, definitely getting a lot of media attention, a lot of speculation all over social media that's been kind of building, I would say, over the last several months since all of this did go down here. Now, in your experience, is there an argument for why the gag order should actually be lifted or not?
I think you won't see the judge lift the gag order entirely. I think you might see the judge modify the gag order. The gag order, as I mentioned, is very broad and is very restrictive, and it's not allowing even not direct parties related to this case, but the family members and their attorneys to even make any kind of comment on the case, which is to some a little bit overreaching. The media has its own arguments in saying that, listen, we have to be allowed to report on this. The judges operating, is their argument, under the assumption that all media coverage is somehow negative and bad and can negatively impact this case. Well, I think an argument to be made is there's going to be media coverage, whether the judge likes it or not. So it might be fair to allow that to be at least in some way directed by the parties who are involved so that they can give some accurate information. So I think you might see the judge peel back some of the restrictions, but I don't think you'll see the judge lift the order entirely.
What happens next in this case? Because we know that Kohberger has been indicted, so that preliminary hearing that was scheduled for the coming weeks, I believe, is not going to happen. So what happens next here?
You're right. So essentially by having that grand jury indictment, it places us in the position we would be after a preliminary hearing. So now we're on track for trial. That's the next big step. Trial is set for later this year, I believe. I don't think that you will see that trial date stay in place, especially if it is decided by the prosecution that they are going to, in fact, seek the death penalty in this case. If they do, I think you could see this drag on for a while because the defense is going to mount every argument that they possibly
stop it right here. Y'all know what? I cannot wait until this trial starts. I cannot wait, y'all. I'm going to be all into this trial. Because I want to see who's going to testify against Bryan Kohberger. Because they are he's you know, and then I know he can't wait to hear what they got to say too. I just can't wait because I want to hear him talk.
And that would be a lot of pre-trial litigation dealing with evidentiary issues, issues related to the death penalty, the issues related to the selection of jurors who would sit on a death penalty case. In that type of situation, they would be considered death penalty qualified, which is a lot more involved of a process. So you're going to see a lot of evidentiary arguments and preliminary what are called in limine arguments made beforehand. But the next big step will just be trial.
Good.
All right. So as far as a jury, and you touched on this there, but seating a jury, I would imagine, could be fairly difficult when you have a case of this magnitude. And you do have people who are talking about it, watching every move, reading all the court documents, and posting all over social media. And we know if you're talking about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything, there is a lot of misinformation out there. So how difficult could it be to seat a jury in a case like this?
It could be difficult if it's still conducted in that kind of small community there. That, my understanding, it has really taken over the zeitgeist of that community, and that it's almost anything anyone is talking about in the local coffee shops. And so finding jurors who are both death qualified if this does become a death penalty case and don't have any preconceived prejudices or biases about this case coming into it might prove difficult. So you might see a change of venue where they move it to a larger county where it maybe has not absorbed the local community as much, and you might be
But
able
you know what? A lot of people, just to go to what he's discussing right here, that a lot of people don't watch this, y'all. A lot of people not even interested in this case. So there are a lot of countries that don't even want to hear nothing about the Bryan Kohberger and the college students. So there are people out here that's not watching this case.
Find jurors, and you'd be surprised, even in cases of this magnitude where it has so much news coverage, there are some people who just don't follow this type of news. They're concerned with football and other things. They're not concerned with crime coverage, and so you would be able to find jurors who don't have any kind of preconceived notions about this case.
Looking way down the line, let's say this does go to trial here, is it possible, and this is far out, so it could be difficult to really comment on, but is it possible that we see Bryan Kohberger testify in his own defense? That seems to be a question that gets asked whenever you have a high-profile case like this one.
Yeah, and it's always the thing that people are most curious about. Is this one of those types of cases where you're going to hear from the defendant? And I'm going to give the same answer I always give. I don't know. I know that usually the defense attorneys are pushing that they do not do that. They know how difficult it is for somebody to testify on their own behalf, to be under that crucible of cross-examination, because jurors are just waiting for any misstep, any opportunity. We saw this with the Murdoch case, that they just didn't believe the man, and that might have been enough alone for them to convict in a quick manner, in which they did. So in this case, it may come down to, do they have no other opportunity to present a defense for themselves? It really is important to understand what their defense might be. Is that an alibi defense, and is he the only one that can lay the basis for that? Then maybe you might see him testify. The other thing to keep in mind is, of all the decisions that the defense attorneys are in control of, the decision whether or not to testify lies solely with the defendant. So if he, in spite of their best recommendations, decides he wants to take the stand, then he has a right to do that.
All right, Joshua.
Okay, y'all. I just, only thing I want to put to the case, as long as they be fair. I'm not on either one of the sides. I just want the case to be fair. If Bryan Kohberger is the person that did this, let him get the time for it, but it got prove he do this, you know what I mean? But I haven't been covering the case, y'all, due to the fact that it's a big gag order on here. So I will be coming in, giving y'all just a little bit, like dirt, what they putting in it, and out, whatever I can get. And I want to tell my subscriber, I appreciate y'all. And I appreciate y'all helping me out at night, y'all. I'm gonna keep my eyes open. Okay, I love y'all. Peace.